So let's focus in specifically on the fat loss phase that everyone has a trouble with. And I'm going to tell you how you need to do it instead. So the fat loss phase for most people looks like this. They cut as many calories as possible, right? Because they're trying to get that deficit. They're like, how many calories? They go into MyFitnessPal and they're going to go, 500, 600, like how big of a deficit can I create? That's usually what they do. And they do that as long as they can. And for some people, they also add in cardio. So they'll do as much as cardio as possible. So they have a big calorie deficit and they have an extra cardio in there. And that's what they do. And they just keep doing it until one, maybe they're really successful and they lose as much weight as possible, and then they plateau. And why do they plateau? Because their metabolism is now so efficient that the low calories that they're consuming and the amount of cardio that they're doing, their body is now efficient at that. So now that's their new maintenance. So the only way for them to continue to lose weight would be to drop their calories. But that really depends on where your calories are. You can only drop your calories so low, right? Your body actually needs calories and nutrients to keep your heart going, to keep your brain functioning, for you to move. Like we're not trying to not consume calories or remove calories. We really want to be healthy. So most people, the way they go about fat loss is they literally just have as little calories as possible, and they try to add a bunch of cardio in, and it's like they're trying to get rid of calories as fast as possible. And the main outcome of this is their metabolism slows down. Their maintenance and what it requires to keep them, functioning every day just gets lower and lower, and they have nowhere else to go. So either, again, they stay at that low calorie and that high cardio, and their weight doesn't move. Now, if they're at that goal, they might be like, okay, I hit my goal, great. And what happens? They'll stay at these low calories, right? Because they don't want to gain the weight back. They're like, I hit my goal and now I'm here. Again, not ideal. But what most people do, because most people don't get to this goal weight. I'm not gonna lie. Most people don't get to this goal weight. Most people don't stay on a diet forever. Like they just don't. Like they will get there and then they won't be motivated by the scale anymore. And they might have like a cheat meal. And then they'll, their weight might go up a little bit, or they'll have a cheat vacation, or they'll just be like, this blows. And then they put on a couple pounds and then they try to work it off, but their metabolism is now slower. So they might work off a little bit. And then they're like, this is not great again. And then they'll go, eat a bunch again, or they'll just have a normal life where like just eating normally is not cheating. It's just, you should be eating calories because again, we need calories for nutrition. So as you can see, if your calories are this low, there's really nowhere else for you to go. So a big thing that people end up doing is they'll keep dropping their calories until they can't do it anymore. And they either can't quite get to their ideal weight because they're stuck at that plateau, or they decide to eat a little bit more, or they're a normal person and then their weight starts to fluctuate back and forth. So that is why most people get stuck in that fat loss phase. If at any point, actually, if we're doing this and you wanted to type in a question because you don't quite understand this portion of it, let me know, because I don't want to go too further into it if you're like, I don't quite understand what you're saying. So that's the fat loss phase. And that's what people tend to really get stuck in, is that they just keep hammering in, they keep lowering their calories, they keep increasing their cardio, and there's nowhere else to go. And they just end up with a really slow metabolism, which is a horrible place to be. And you can see why that is actually going to have you, gain weight. It's going to probably put you in a really bad mood. And for women, if they're stuck in this fat loss phase, if you are a woman who is cycling, like you still have your period, your metabolism is actually going to change depending on where you are in your cycle. So it can be up to 20 times faster within your cycle than some weeks. And so if you can just imagine you are, on this weight loss journey and you are already really low on your calories. You're already like, this kind of is not a great situation. You might be a little moody. You don't get to, enjoy time with your family and eating the same things. And then all of a sudden, you're doing okay. And then the next week you're ravenous. You're out of your mind. You're hungry. You feel like you could eat almost anything. And the reason is because your metabolism is actually faster during, like, right before your period. Your metabolism is actually faster. So a lot of times for women, when you're trying to be in that fat loss phase, you will think that the reason that you're so hungry before your time of the month is simply because you're having cravings. But the real truth is that your metabolism is actually faster, and you really do need to eat more calories, because even if you're at so here's your maintenance, let's say this is your maintenance and this is your deficit, right? So if this is your deficit normally, and say this is an okay place for you to lose weight, like let's say this is 20%, and let's say you're at like 1,500 calories, and normally your weight is, now I made myself do math, this is not going to be good, I'm going to say 1,800. I don't really know the math there, but let's just say 1,800 is your maintenance and 1,500 is where you are having your deficit at. So this is great, la-di-da-di-da, you're going about your weeks and you're losing weight, and then all of a sudden right before your period, let's say your metabolism goes up here and you're still at this calorie deficit. This you might get by. You're like, oh, I'm hungry, but I can make it happen. You do this, and the husband better not make a peep, because you're literally going to bite his head off, right? Because you are going to have mood swings like a maniac, not because it's just partly it's hormonal, but the other part is because you need more energy and your metabolism is faster because it's producing, and it needs those calories to produce the hormones. So not only are you dealing with the hormones, you're dealing with the fact that you don't have enough calories to produce them. So you are going to be affected emotionally. And not only are women specifically, so again, this is a little bit specific for the women, not only are you affected that way, but we tend to feel guilty, right? Like if one week you're just kind of like doing it and you're like, yeah, like let's say you're in your period, and the week after your period, our metabolism is actually slower. We're more like men, and we can be on a diet and we have more energy and we can work out and we're in a good mood and life is amazing in that week too. And then you're doing the exact same thing, and the week before your period comes along and you are ravenous, you're moody, you feel like giving up, and you're going to feel guilty. Like, I'm not saying you should feel guilty, but what happens, especially with my clients, is they do feel guilty because they're like, I can't keep this up. There's something wrong with me. Like, I felt so good about myself last week, and now all of a sudden I can't do it. Like, women tend to feel like really put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we feel really guilty as if it's a character flaw. So that is a really big part of the weight loss phase for women.